So today's talk title is called The Ripple Effect, How Gratitude Creates Waves of Grace. How we can move into that sense of grace by being grateful for pretty much everything that we have. So when the ripple effect, when I came up with this title, I thought, oh, this speaks to my science teacher background, the whole physics of ripples and waves and all that jazz. It was real fun. So in the ripple effect, even the very smallest actions can have a big impact. If you've dropped a pebble, just a tiny little pebble, into still water, you can watch it move out and out continuously until it finally dissipates. This ripple effect is a powerful metaphor for how these smallest actions that we can take in our life can have huge and sometimes unintended impacts in our experiences of life. And so thinking about that visual of that pebble dropping into the water and how that ripples forth there, think about how any single action that you take, no matter how small it is, can send out waves of influence that spread beyond that initial place where the pebble was dropped. Everything that we do spreads out from us. It ripples out from us. And sometimes it has the impact that we intended on it, and sometimes there are things that happen that we don't really particularly wanted to have happen. So this ripple effect can amplify both positive and negative actions in our lives. It can be a force for good, and it can be sometimes problematic as we move forth. And so when we think about this, that small act that can actually brighten someone's day, holding a door open for someone. I love to watch the reaction of people as I hold the door open for them. Most often, I get a big smile back, and they just light up because someone has given a small act of kindness their way. And I know that little bit can then move out from them and touch the next person that they encounter. I've also seen it, where it's been totally ignored and the person was grumpy in the first place, they didn't really care, they didn't pay attention, and I've seen those reactions move out to other people as well. Any brief interaction that we have can cascade itself throughout an entire community, throughout a group of people, throughout a community, throughout organizations. How many of you have ever been at work where you have somebody that's kind of a sourpuss, doesn't want to be there, complains about everything? Imagine how that, I'm sure you don't have to imagine, I'm sure you've experienced how that ripples out. By the same token, having someone who is a bright light coming into your life ripples out and affects everything around it. This positive and negative effect can either take a minor conflict and blow it into a huge problem or misunderstanding or anything like that and can really blow it out. Or it can be a place where compassion is possible, where a tiny gesture can spark ripples of support, ripples of grace, ripples of movement. We each come to every situation with our own experiences. And as we move into those experiences, we bring that with us, and that's what is rippling out from us. So if we come into a situation with confidence, with optimism, with joy, with love, that's what's coming out of us. That's what's rippling forth through us. And by the same token, if we come to that situation and we're angry and we've brought something that's happened before and we're still ruminating on that, that can actually ripple out from us too. And so we have that ultimate responsibility of being that place where the ripples that are coming forth from us are ones of high vibration, high energy, high positive experiences for not just ourselves, but for everyone else that goes forth from us. So someone who expresses confidence and optimism, they can inspire somebody. They can inspire other groups. They can inspire people that they've never met before. They can inspire them to be more of what they are. And again, like I said, our stress and negative moods can also affect the atmosphere of an entire building even. So this power of the ripple effect, it reminds us that our actions, our words, our intentions, our attitudes are never in isolation. Oftentimes we think, well, it's just me, I'm just in a bad mood. Don't worry about it. But it can't help but move forth from us. We are contagious that way. I mean, we've experienced that 4-year contagion not too long ago. We know how quickly that spreads. And we know the damage that it can do as it moves forth from us. And so just like a virus, we need to be responsible for our actions and our words and the energy that we put out and the thoughts that come through our mouths out into the public. But becoming more intentional about even the smallest actions that we take, we can harness this power positively and affect our world greatly. And I don't think that there's a time in our world where it's been more important than right now, that we move forth with positive energy and allow that to ripple forth. We've got plenty of the negative energy out there. Let's be a force of positive change in our world. And by planting these seeds of positive energy, then we can grow even larger waves of grace as we move out into our world and across the lives, not only the people in our sphere, but imagine how much that goes out from us with other people as they meet people in their lives. If each one of us is touching 10 people, and each one of those 10 people is touching 10 people, now we've already got 100 people involved in this. It goes out very quickly. And so we can actually really begin to look at our lives and see, where can I be a little more positive in it? As I said before, I'm a science teacher. I was a science teacher for many years. And so I love the science of gratitude. There are so many studies that have been done on the positive effects of gratitude in our lives. Science says that it improves our mental health. It strengthens our relationships. It even can boost our physical health by being in gratitude most of the time. When we focus on what we're grateful for, we create new neural pathways in our brains that reinforce those positive thinkings, and that builds resilience within us. So then when we do have those times that are a little more trying, we've got the resilience of the gratitude that has been built in our brains to rely on, to help us remember, oh yeah, I don't have to get stuck in that negative cycle. I can go back to the more positive way of being. So there's so many things that have been done on science and gratitude that it can really be a really powerful force in our lives. So here are some physical things that gratitude does, according to the studies that I read about this. It boosts our dopamine and serotonin levels, which is part of our brain's reward center. So it's the thing that, oh yeah, this feels good, let's do this again, kind of thing. It increases the release of dopamine and serotonin, and those are the neurotransmitters that are responsible for all of our positive emotions that we have. All of the positive feelings that we have come through, well, most of them come through dopamine and serotonin. And so that then strengthens the association that our brains make with doing something positive or feeling something positive and getting that instantaneous reward for it. The brain says, ooh, I want more of that. I'll have more of that. And so we want to do it over and over again, which actually is a part of creating those neural pathways. It improves our sleep, and it reduces our stress. And so studies have shown that people who practice gratitude consistently experience better sleep quality and fewer symptoms of stress. Oftentimes, people will use the practice of gratitude before they go to bed by writing in a gratitude journal, simple as writing down 3 things, or even just saying them to yourselves. But it's kind of like that last thought on your mind before you go to sleep is one of gratitude, then your brain likes that. And again, it increases resilience, and which helps us then remember those positive feelings. So gratitude also has a spiritual component. It has something that is helps us connect with Source better, connect with whatever you want to call it, consciousness, God, spirit, the divine, energy, intelligence, whichever one you like, doesn't matter. But gratitude helps us connect with that higher energy. It amplifies the frequencies that we are producing ourselves. Again, like I said, this gratitude is contagious. When you are feeling good and it's coming out from you, it's contagious and it amplifies itself. So it is like tuning into a higher frequency. So that when we focus on what we're thankful for, We align ourselves with the energy of abundance, the energy of love, the energy of peace. When we focus on things that we're not grateful for, the negative side of that, then that's what gets reinforced inside of us. Disturbance and discord and ill feelings within us. And so if we can keep our mind on the gratitude part of it, then our experience and our emotions and everything else becomes to a greater degree, a greater experience in our lives. Gratitude is also opens the pathway to experiencing that grace, the givingness of spirit. It's, again, that law of circulation, that what we put out comes back to us. And so if we are putting out gratitude, and grace is the givingness of God, and we are grateful for what we receive, then we just enter into that cycle more fully, and so it just keeps coming back to us and back to us each time as we open up ourselves to experiencing more grace through the practice of being grateful. We wind up seeing more what we might have called coincidences before, but we often now think of them as serendipitous events, things that were meant to happen in the first place, and that they are like, wow, these synchronicities, these things that happen, and it's like reinforces that feeling of grace and gratitude as we move forth. It's as if the universe is responding to our gratitude by providing us with more of what we are celebrating, what we are acknowledging in our life. And of course, gratitude is a fabulous form of prayer. The 13th century mystic, Meister Eckhart, said, if the only prayer you ever say is one of gratitude, then you've said enough. You don't need to do anything more than just simply be grateful. And so those times when you can't think of anything else to say, just say thank you. And mean it, and allow it to come from a deep place of knowing within yourself. This is just a wonderful way that we can actually begin to experience the spiritual qualities of gratitude. And so there is this beautiful blend of science and spirituality when it comes to gratitude. And that's what makes it so powerful in our lives. When we can take the science of it, the things that people have proven that are true, and we can add what we know spiritually about it and blend those two together, then it can transform not only our physical bodies and allowing us to become more resilient, but it transforms our emotional and spiritual aspect of our life too. Life just becomes a whole lot better when we are entering into that attitude of gratitude and allowing that grace, that givingness of spirit to move through us. This is a beautiful blend of science and spirituality. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, talked about this in what we call our textbook, The Science of Mind. It's a longer quote, but I've condensed it down a little bit here for us. God in nature, the universe, withholds nothing from anyone. It is all delivered. This is what I interpret as the theology of grace. Grace because the universe itself is infinite givingness. It can't help it. That's its nature. And because it is in our own experience, only the one who gives all gets all. Only the one who gives all gets all. That's talking about entering again into that law of circulation, allowing whatever is coming through us to move out into our experience, allowing ourselves to enter into that flow of giving and receiving. We talked about that a lot last week. Grace is the givingness of life. Grace is the givingness of spirit. It is moving itself into our expression all the time, and it happens automatically. And as we talked about last month when we were talking about all of the law of circulation and attraction and all of the ideas of abundance and prosperity, the only thing that's ever going to stop it is when we close ourselves off. When we take ourselves out of that flow. If we spend time thinking about the negative problems that we have, instead of being grateful for the positive, we take ourselves out of the flow of grace. It's always being given, but are we open to receiving it? Are we open to allowing spirit to move through us? You know, creating these waves of gratitude is really a powerful practice that we can begin to do. We can start with small acts. I love that phrase, practicing random acts of kindness and senseless acts of beauty. Imagine if all of the world was that, random acts of kindness and senseless acts of beauty. Just doing things, small things. Again, holding the door open for somebody, giving somebody a smile when they look like they're having a hard time. Doing little things can really begin to start the process of moving us into a sense of gratitude and more grace in our lives. I have a friend that writes thank you notes all the time, and she writes them all out and then just passes them out. She doesn't even necessarily know what they say, but she's passing them out. And one day we were coming out of a store, and she sticks a little note on the car, and I said, what are you doing, putting a note on the car? There was nothing happening. She goes, oh, it's just one of my thank you notes. I just want to thank them for being the wonderful person that they are today. And so it's just like, what a little thing to do, and it makes such a big impact. Can you imagine you get to your car and you see a note on it and you're like, oh no, what's now? You know, I don't know about anybody else, but I would automatically assume something's happened. Somebody's put a note on my car, something has happened to it. And I go over there and I open it up and it says, you're a beautiful person. Thank you for being here. Can you imagine the difference that you feel in your life, right? Just with a simple act like that. When we set an intention to practice gratitude, to feel more grace in our lives, even being grateful when things are a little bit more challenging can be powerful for us. You know, grateful for, that I have the means to move through this experience. If you have some kind of problem with your car, grateful that you have the means to pay for it. Grateful that you weren't stuck on the freeway for 2 hours. Grateful that you were able to get it fixed. Even though it's a challenge, shifting it around to gratitude instead of the drama of the problem can really begin to change the way we do that. And again, like I said, this is one of the ways that we align ourselves with abundance and love and peace and joy and harmony, all of those qualities of spirit that we are wanting to experience more. When we get into that flow of it, we're aligning ourselves with it and we're bringing more of it into our lives. Doesn't mean that challenging things won't happen sometimes, but how we deal with those challenging things determines how we are going to experience life. One of the things that we have to do with this is really begin to trust the process. Trust that and know that even in the midst of this challenge, Spirit is present there. Spirit is always present. At the Interfaith Forum last Sunday night, I was asked the question, is God in war? And my response I looked at the people as I responded, and I got quite a few shocked faces, and I said, absolutely, God is in war. I said, but the thing is, God is only present where it's realized. It's there, but if we don't have the realization of it, if we are not bringing it into our experiences, in other words, if we are not practicing gratitude, if we are not looking for the grace in the situation, then there's not a place for Spirit to act. And that's why violence can happen. That's why wars can happen. That's why all of these things that we don't want to experience can happen. It doesn't mean that God is not present, but it hasn't found a place to operate yet because we are not open to allowing it to move through us. But as we enter into this reciprocal relationship, that was a tough one, reciprocal relationship with Spirit, we're allowing it into us and it's coming through us, then we are entering that flow and God has a place to operate in every single challenge in the world. So you can ask yourself this week as we move into this little bit of turmoil around the election that's coming up, is God present in the election? Well, is it? Yes. Absolutely, and it's present and active when we are there with it, recognizing it. So as we go to cast our vote today, or Tuesday, or if you've already cast it, when you go in there, are you bringing Spirit with you? Or are you worried about what's going to happen? It's a big difference. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't worry. It doesn't mean that there aren't challenges in our world. But what are we bringing to the situation? Each one of us has a responsibility to do what Joel Goldsmith calls our world work. Our world work is to bring the presence of the God to the situation, to bring the presence of Spirit right to every situation we face. So as I'm driving down the road this morning, getting here, there was a pretty significant accident on I-15. And so I could have I wouldn't have closed my eyes because I was driving, but I could have turned my head and not looked at it. But instead, I said out loud in the car, God is the presence of everyone in this situation. God is active right here. Now, do I know whether that helped or not? No, but I felt a lot better. And it's a ripple effect. If I'm feeling better, it has to move out from me. I brought the consciousness of spirit to that situation. It may have been there already, but I just amplified it. I magnified it by bringing that sense of spirit to it. And so as we go about our day and we see any kind of discord, any kind of turmoil or problem that's going on, are we getting caught up in the problem, or are we bringing spirit to work there? Our task is to always be that place where spirit shows through. The place on which I stand is holy ground, for God is there. Every single one of us can say that. The place on which I stand is holy ground, for God is there. Say that with me. The place on which I stand is holy ground, for God is there. I bring God to the situation, no matter what the situation is. So what am I bringing to the table? Am I bringing discord? Am I bringing peace? Am I bringing love? Am I bringing anger? Am I bringing a sense of harmony and balance? Or am I caught in the turmoil, spinning around like I'm in a hurricane, and it's moving all around me? What am I bringing to the table? That's our job every single day, is to bring the presence of the divine right there with us. And that allows it to move forth. And so as we practice gratitude and grace and allow it to be that place of power within us, the ripple effect moves out. It moves out and touches lives in ways we will never know. Never, ever know. I just mentioned Joel Goldsmith. He tells this story of keeping God, he's talking about practicing the presence, keeping God fresh in your mind. And he says, you can be standing in a checkout line at the grocery store, and you're thinking about spirit. And somewhere halfway across the world, someone has dropped to their knees and said, God, please help me. And because you have brought spirit into presence, there's a place for spirit to act in their lives. We never have to know it. If you go back to quantum physics says that the universe is non-locality is the part of it. It's non-locality. It's not determined by the place where you're at. It transcends time. It transcends space. It doesn't matter, but we have to bring presence into it. We have to allow spirit to move into us and allow it to be a force of good in the world. Otherwise, we're part of the problem. We're just part of that chaos that's moving around because everything is going to ripple out from us. And so is it going to be a powerful force of good, or is it going to be discord and ill ease as we move forth into it? So as we get moving into our lives, it's just always an opportunity for us to say, how can I bring spirit here? And it's, honest to God, it's nothing you have to do that anybody ever knows about. Just sit down and go into that prayer. Even if your prayer is, thank you, God, that it's not me. There's still a place for spirit to act there. There's still a place for you to have empathy for what's happening in the situation. It doesn't diminish you in any way by being grateful that you're not in that situation. As I drove by this morning, I could have said that very easily. Thank you, I'm not involved in this accident. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's still the acknowledgement. It's still connecting with spirit. It's still finding that place where God can show up in the world around us. So let me finish off with this quote from Ernest here. It may not be what I'm talking about because that was all not in my notes. So just going with that. In everything, give thanks. An attitude of gratitude bespeaks the realization that we are now in heaven. Gratitude is one of the chief graces of the human existence and is crowned in heaven with the consciousness of unity. It is crowned in heaven with the consciousness of unity. So let's repeat this affirmation together before we pray. I am grateful. I am grateful. I am grateful. And in this gratitude, I create waves of grace. I invite our practitioners to stand and surround the sanctuary, holding us in their consciousness throughout the week. These beloveds do amazing work. They bring the presence of God into their lives every day, every single day. Through spiritual practice, through study, through their service, through their hearts and hands and minds. So I just invite you to take in that breath with me. And so right here and right now, I know that there is only one divine creative source of all, one power, one presence, one love, one life. And this one goes by many names and shows up in infinite incarnations. But right now in this moment, I simply know it as God. And I know that God is all there is. That the isness and the allness and the fullness of the divine resides right at the heart of my being. It is whose and who I am. This one power and this one presence has brought me into creation, has delivered me to this day to do its work, to be that place where God shows up. And as I know this is true for me, I know this is true for each one of us, for we all stand on holy ground. We all are the place where God shows up. It is our very nature to be that open vessel, that conduit through which Spirit flows into experience. And so knowing this truth, I know that each one of us is divinely connected to that one infinite source, that it is the power and the presence that animates our lives. It is what we are here for. It is why we have come into incarnation in the first place. That this one power and this one presence so loved the world that it gave you to it. That it gave each one of us individually to a greater and greater experience of life. I know that each one of us is that place in consciousness, and that each one of us ripples out in powerful waves, experiencing life only as we are made to do, perfectly and uniquely and divinely, just as we were created. I am so grateful to know this. I'm so grateful to feel it. I'm so grateful to see it happening right here and right now. And so I simply release this word into the law, into that creative, loving intelligence that always says yes. I let it go and I let it be. And together we say, and so it is.